My name is Fitz Pickering, and I'm going to be explaining the basics of Adobe Photoshop 2020. For my demonstration, I put this together not greatly, but it'll help explain the basics. I did a lot of different things to make this picture, and I'm going to briefly explain them. To work within Photoshop, you need to know a few basic things, and those few basic things are layers, masking, and just adjustments. And those are the three most basic things I'm going to be explaining within the video. To start off, the most basic and most important thing you need to know is the layers. Layers is something that'll be very important while using Photoshop. You need to be able to duplicate your first layer on what you want to work with, because if you do not work with layers, it's going to get messy. You're going to have to start over, and it's just going to get frustrating. So make sure you're able to duplicate your layer. Make sure you're able to duplicate your layer. Secondly, you need to learn how to mask, and masking is a very basic thing in Photoshop. It's fairly easy to do. You can use the quick selection tool to your left, and you just highlight over what you want your subject to be, and it'll take just a second, and Photoshop does it for you. It outlines it for you, and once you get to that point, you're going to want to go down to this, which is your masking button. You're going to want to mask it, and in the under layer, you put new fill layer and a solid color, just to put a background behind that, and it'll look something like this, and you'll have your basic background. Now that you know how to mask and now how to work with layers, now you can start having a little bit more fun with it. And the next thing I'm going to show you is, if you want to work with Photoshop, you need to understand that just because you can mask and then put a color behind it does not mean it's going to look nice. You need to learn how to use your opacity, which basically just uses how strong that is, or what you masked, how strong that is, and how to work. Then you need to know how to work with um, then you need to learn how to work with, I'll get to filter gallery, and how to adjust your images or image with adjustments with using all of these different settings. You can adjust your brightness and your contrast. You might have to do at one point, you never know. And that's about it for that. You can use filter and filter gallery, something you can use. It can add special effects like this, and there's many different ones you can use. Another basic thing is, when you want to add a picture, you need to make sure that you save it to your desktop first before you put it in, so you're able to crop it and put it where you want without it being so complicated. Now we are going to use this for example. You kind of place it where you want to, and you basically, I just dragged this picture in from my desktop. That's all I did, and then just click out of it. You're still able to move it, but you aren't able to crop it. And then you just put your picture over it, and you have that in the background. And if you want to match the color in the background, um, basically you're just gonna have to mask this either with a quick selection tool, or another way to mask is click this and then you just draw it out yourself with these brushes on the left. Now back to this, because I'm just gonna resume to where I was talking Basically, we have that ice in the background. We lower the opacity, which is right here again, to make it not as bright. And then to add text, you just go to this little T right here on the left, and you can add horizontal boxes or vertical boxes by double clicking on here. You can add different types of boxes, and you just drag that, you drag it, and then you type in a word, and you can edit your text here, your size, and your color. If you want to get more fancy and you feel you're more comfortable with doing it once you've learned how to work with Photoshop more, you can learn how to do this outer glow. And basically for outer glow, you're going to want to go to the layer of the word you just made. You want to double click on it, and you're going to go down here to outer glow, and basically you can change the opacity of it. You can change the noise, which is how much of a spread it has, kind of. You can change the color, what kind of technique it has. You can go precise or you can go softer. I think I'm going to want to use precise because I like the look of that better. You can do the spread of how big it is. You can use the size and many different things like that. This is right here is certain work I did. It's a certain filter, and that's not something basic, so I'm not going to get into that. As you can see, I have all my layers here in a certain order to where I want everything on top of each other. So I want the picture of me over the top of the picture of the ice, so I have that more down here. And then I have the text over the ice as well, so it's over it and you can read it well. And that is the basic of layers. I've basically shown all of the basics of what I believe is in Photoshop. I gave a basic description of how I made this, and basically if you can learn the basics with your layers and your masking and how to put images in, you will 100% learn how to work with Photoshop very quickly. This is the basics of Adobe Photoshop 2020.